Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rails Board Meeting. This is Friday, September 26th, 2025, and I'm Gwen Gregory. I call this meeting to order at 1 p.m. Stacy, will you please call roll?
Monica Caldecott.
Here.
Jean Carroll. Jennifer Kutchel.
Here.
Megan Gove. Gwen Gregory.
Here.
Ron Hallahan.
Here.
Jennifer Hovanek.
Here.
Amanda Kowalski.
Here.
Robert Parks.
Here.
Emily Porter. Carolyn Sennett.
Here.
Alex Fansina.
Here.
Karen Boytek.
Here.
Yolanda Wilburn.
Here.
Catherine Yanikowski. Here. We have quorum.
Thank you. We will handle guests and public comments at the same time. Let's start with guests in Burr Ridge.
Monica Harris, Rails. Sharon Swanson, Rails.
Matt Garrett, Sickich.
Casey Palmisano, Rails.
Mark Patch, Rails.
Dan Bus from Rails.
Maggie Toman, Rails.
Kathleen Hawk, Rails. Ann Slaughter, Rails.
Rails.
Are there public comments in Burr Ridge? Next, are there any guests and public comments in Coal Valley?
No guests or comments in Coal Valley.
Moving on to East Peoria, are there any guests or public comments there?
Just us chickens. No guests.
Stacy, will you read the names of the guests via Zoom?
Brian Hebel.
Are there any,
Grant Halter. Mandy Saya. And Sam Daly.
okay, thank you. Are there any public comments from any Zoom participants? No, okay. Stacy, did you receive any public comments by email?
I did not receive any public comments by email.
Let's move on to the consent agenda. I would like to mention that the board minutes included in your packet will be edited to reflect the correct number of items that Northern Illinois University added to Find More Illinois, which is 800,000 rather than only 8,000. Does anyone wish to move any item to the regular agenda for further discussion? May I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the amended August 22nd board minutes?
Yolanda Wilburn, I will move.
Caldecott, second.
Stacy, will you please call roll?
Monica Caldecott.
Yes.
Jennifer Kutchel.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Ron Hallahan.
Yes.
Jennifer Hovanek.
Yes.
Amanda Kowalski.
Yes.
Rob Parks.
Yes.
Carolyn Sennett.
Yes.
Alex Fansina.
Yes.
Karen Boytek.
Yes.
Yolanda Wilburn.
Yes.
Catherine Yanikowski. Yes.
Thank you. Next up is Sharon with the Rails Annual Audit Report.
Thank you so much, Gwen, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited. Rails has completed our 14th annual financial audit with the help of Sickich. And you were provided with a PDF copy of the annual financial audit, a draft single audit, only for discussion at this point, and the auditor's communication to the board of directors. If anyone wants printed copies, as Monica mentioned before, if anyone came in after she mentioned it, they're over there on the side table. And I wanted to say everything went well, as always, and we have a clean opinion. I want to take the opportunity to thank Matt and the entire team at Sickich for all of their hard work during this process and all of their help during this process. It's been a transition year to a new team and a new firm at Sickich, and they've made it very, very smooth for us. Thank you very much. And Matt will present our audit. He was our primary person, primary lead and contact on the audit. And we will have time after for any of you to ask any questions that you have of either one of us. And before I turn the presentation over to Matt, I did want to note that we're asking for your acceptance of this report and not your approval, because we don't want to make it seem like we supervised Matt and Sickich's work during this process. And with that, I will turn it over to Matt to take the presentation away.
Thank you, Sharon. Well,
Can I ask a question first?
I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, this is Rob Parks. So will I get an electronic copy?
Yes, you will. Yes, you
It's
will.
unfortunate that wasn't sent out in advance, to be completely candid.
Okay, yes, you will, Rob, definitely. And Stacy, I know you'll handle that.
Yes.
You.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So it's a pleasure to be with you all today at your meeting. As Sharon alluded to, my name is Matt Gerdes. I'm a principal with Sikich. I've been in public accounting, specifically with public sector now for close to 25 years now. And I supervised the engagement team that rendered the opinion on Rails's financial statements. I'm going to be going over in a fairly short presentation, the key aspects of the report and the engagements that you should be aware of. The reports spell out in detail everything that is, of course, and that you really need to know. And if you do have any questions outside of this presentation, you can definitely get in touch with me. Happy to speak with you and go through any questions you guys have. So the first of our deliverables, which is the audited financial statements, that is in the, those of you that have a bound copy, and then so again, we also have this in a PDF as well, is the audited financial statements. The first thing that everybody really wants to know is what was the opinion? That's actually the one thing in an engagement that actually belongs to Sikich. It's on our letterhead for a reason. So, and the rest of it is the financial statements, the footnotes, the other required elements as required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. That is the responsibility of management to prepare that information, and then we can actually issue the report. Report that the results of this year's audit included an unmodified opinion, also known as a clean opinion. It's the best opinion we can give on the financial statements. And Sharon, I know you've said thank you to us for the work that our team provided, but we also want to thank you and the Rails team as well for the courtesies you guys extended to us. One, we can't issue unmodified opinions without the cooperation of management to get the information needed. These audit reports themselves in a governmental type setting, they're not the easiest things to get through. So the fact that we're able to get it done on time, that's a great accomplishment. So thank you. So the report goes through and describes the opinions as well. Something that is unique to this year's opinion is we have what's called an emphasis of matter on the first page. And it's because of the fact we have a change in accounting principle this year. There was a required adoption of an accounting standard dealing with compensated absences. That's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a change in the rules set by the accounting standards. So because of that, management needed to go through and update their calculations in accordance with the standards. And because of that, it's material enough where we do put a separate emphasis of matter in the report to draw readers' attention to that. It didn't modify our opinion in any way, shape, or form. It's just a call out. The next thing that's in the report as well is what we call our Yellow Book or Government Auditing Standards Report. Now, since your engagement is subject to the Yellow Book and it's also requiring to do a single audit, we have to issue a separate report right after the auditor's opinion, which describes how we assessed the report on internal control over financial reporting. We don't actually issue an opinion on internal control over financial reporting. The only entities that do that are for public companies. Those that are registered with the SEC or the PCAOB. And trust me, you do not want to go through one of those engagements. But we do assess what is going on with the internal control over financial reporting. And we also look at compliance with applicable laws and regulations. That goes in with what we call a Yellow Book opinion. And happy to report that this year, we didn't have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report, and we didn't note any non-compliance with applicable laws and standards. So again, that's the best type of report we can issue on the Yellow Book side. The next piece that's in the financials is what's called management's discussion and analysis. And I like to call this the Cliff's Notes version of what's going on in the report. It describes what is the basics of the report. It refers the users to the actual financial statements themselves and provides analysis from last year to this year of what happened during the fiscal year so that readers can understand what happened during the fiscal year and what these financial statements actually mean. I've actually I like the way Rails has always set up this particular MD&A because it's detailed. I've seen plenty of MD&As that meet the standard, but really don't provide a whole lot of depth of what's going on. This particular MD&A is one that I particularly like, so I highly encourage you spending some time reviewing the MD&A and the various components of that. So the rest of the financial statements that's after the MD&A goes through the basic financial statement. It's called the statement of net position, the statement of activities. That is basically the aggregation of all of your funds together in one presentation. And then after those government-wide statements, we have the individual fund statements. What makes up the general fund? What makes up the capital projects funds as well? That reporting model has not changed from prior years. And the only really change that we had to modify for this year was the fact that we had to deal with the change in accounting principle for compensated absences. Didn't change the footnotes. It just required a difference in the way it was calculated. Management performed those calculations, and we audited those calculations as part of our engagement. Now, the other thing that is going on in the accounting standards world is there was another accounting standard that was adopted for this particular engagement, which is GASB Statement 102. That's dealing with if entities have significant what we call risk disclosures that have to be incorporated. And it's a very high threshold for if a situation arises where there's a substantial impact, we would be required to include additional footnote disclosures in your financial statements. We did not have to do that for this fiscal year. So that's why the audit report really talks about when it comes to adoption of accounting standards, we had to deal with Statement 101, but Statement 102, we really didn't have to do anything with that one. So that was nice. Second document you have with you in front of hard copies is what's called our communication to the board of directors. And this is in accordance with the auditing standards, and it provides a summary of what we have to communicate to those charged with governance, yourselves, as part of the auditing standards at the conclusion of the engagement, specifically dealing with qualitative aspects of the engagement. If we had any sort of difficulties, which after the report we did not, any uncorrected or corrected misstatements, which would be audit adjustments. I'll talk about that one in a minute. Disagreements, consultations with other independent accountants, or any other items like that under the standards. So that you can read at your own discretion. We did have one audit adjustment that we did have to post the financial statements this year. And it's specifically dealing with something with the reporting of what's called deferred inflows and deferred outflows for IMRF. Essentially what happens is that we had to make an adjustment to the financial statements on what's on the balance sheet. Essentially, the information was presented gross. There's a particular part of the standards that says a particular item for the pensions has to be presented net. So we did have to make an audit adjustment to the financial statements and float it through to management's trial balance. However, this is not one that is particularly uncommon. Actually, we see this one quite a bit when it comes to these because of the fact that dealing with some of these pension reporting can be a little on the complex side. So while we did have to report that as an audit adjustment, we did have to run that through the financial statements. Sometimes material audit adjustments require reporting what's called a material weakness, meaning that management really didn't have an understanding of what was going on, and that those mistakes, it's something where we have to report it as a compliance issue. We did not have to report this particular item as a compliance issue. We did have to post it, but we didn't have to take it any further than that. The last thing that's in this document as well is what we call our communication of deficiencies. Basically, recommendations that are not material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, or advisory comments. We didn't have to report any of that during this year. So it's not saying that we don't have those. We can have years where we don't have anything to report and some years where we do. Just this particular year, there really wasn't anything of interest to report. And then going past that, that letter of recommendation is some of the upcoming standards that GASB has cooking specifically for fiscal year 26 and 2027. And Sharon and myself have already started talking about how we're going to be thinking about the implementation of those for next fiscal year's audit. The final thing that I want to bring to your attention is the draft of the single audit. And the reason why this report is not final is because during the single audit process, which is the audit of your federal awards, the expenditures of your federal awards and applicable compliance, is that one of the items we need to complete the engagement is released by the White House. It's actually the Office of Management and Budget. It's called the Compliance Supplement. It sets the rules of what it is we're auditing and what are those compliance requirements we have to look at on an annual basis. It comes out usually May, sometimes June. A couple of years I've seen it a little later than August. And you have to use the most current compliance supplement in your engagement. The 2025 supplement is still not out yet, and we don't know when it's going to come out. Unfortunately, this is something where we have a draft compliance supplement that we were able to use to do our procedures, and we've started that work, but we cannot complete or issue our financial statement, our single audit report, without that final compliance supplement. So, in accordance with the guidance from the AICPA, we have to hold the single audit report until that comes out, and we simply do not know when that's going to be. So, fortunately, we had a heads up that this was a potential possibility, so we notified management, I don't know what, August, early part of August, saying this could be a problem. And management's already started the communication process with the grant holders, the financial statement users, and everybody else who needs that single audit to let them know that, yes, the financial statements themselves will be issued on time. Single audit has to be held. So once we get the compliance supplement, our turnaround time, we don't think it's going to be exponentially long, assuming that they don't throw anything in there as far as new compliance requirements that they haven't told us about. So with that, I will be happy to entertain any questions you have regarding the 2025 audit.
On your last point,
Mhm.
I imagine at this meeting, you're going to be asking to vote on this. To accept it, can we accept an incomplete financial report?
Well, from the board's perspective, the report, the financial statements in the board report without the single audit, in accordance with the standards, can be issued. So that's why we have issued them. So as far as your acceptance, your board procedure,
The formal acceptance, it would just be for the annual financial report and not for the single audit, because it's not
It's not-
issued
it's
in the
not done
final
yet.
format yet. Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Fortunately, that will come before the board at a different time.
Yes.
This is affecting more than just us, right?
this is affecting every June 30th, 2025 engagement and beyond. So I have a lot of 6:30 engagements that are being held.
So as soon as you get it, you're gonna be really overwhelmed. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm hoping to God that they don't
Yeah.
drastically change the compliance requirements that we already tested, because other than that, yes, I'd have to come back and do more testing. Knock on wood.
I know.
On the preliminary version, they didn't change anything, but you never say never until you actually have a final in your hands.
Did they ever, well, probably not, give you a reason? Like, did their computer blow up and they couldn't give it to you? Did they?
The OMB basically said that they reviewed the changes and that they're just waiting for internal final approval. And that's all we've got. And it's something that comes in also the AICPA, who I have colleagues on the expert panel that monitor this very closely. That's all they've got.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Sharon and Matt, for that report. So may I have a motion and a second to
I put a
accept the FY 2025 Rails annual audit report?
So moved, Catherine.
Second, Amanda?
Stacy, will you please call the roll?
Monica Caldecott?
Yes.
Jennifer Mitchell? Yes. Gwen Gregory?
Yes.
Tom Hallahan?
Yes.
Jennifer Hubenick?
Yes.
Amanda Kowalski? Bob Parks?
Abstain?
Emily, Carolyn Bennett,
Yes.
Alex Messina,
Yes.
Karen Goytek,
Yes.
Yes.
Catherine Anakowski.
Yes.
Thank you. And next up is Sharon with the Rails financial report.
Thank you so much, Gwen. And you will find the August financial reports in your packet, both the financial report itself and the list of disbursements. Just wanted to say the August 31st general fund unassigned cash and investment balance for as of the end of August was approximately $24.4 million. This would fund approximately 20.8 months of budgeted fiscal year 2026 operations, which is up just slightly from this past month. General fund revenues through August were nearly 2.2 million and were just over $126,000 above budget. This was primarily due to the greater than anticipated participation in the EBSCO group purchase, which is nothing but great news. And as well as interest income remaining higher than what we had budgeted. At their September meeting, the Federal Reserve did lower interest rates 0.25%. And this is their first time that they have lowered interest rates since the close of calendar year 2024. This moved the current target federal borrowing rate to between 4% and 4.25%. And they're now projecting the ending calendar year 2025 rates at 3.6% with an additional projected decrease to 3.4% during calendar year 2026. The Federal Reserve is continuing to remain very mindful of how their decisions both impact inflation and the jobs market, and they're trying to carefully balance those two, the dual mandate that they have. The August interest rates in Rails's money market accounts declined very slightly from the July rates in anticipation of this decrease because it was widely anticipated. And as I reported this last month, 9 of Rails's 17 CDs matured during August. A portion of the funds were invested into those 4 new CDs that I mentioned this last month and that are now appearing in your list of investments in your cash balances. The remaining funds for these maturities are being left liquid until we make a recommendation to the board of the amount to redesignate to the capital projects fund and replenish the capital projects fund, which we anticipate having that recommendation for you all this next month. Rails's general fund expenditures through August were just over $3.4 million, and these were just over $312,000 below budget. This is primarily due to factors that I've mentioned in prior months. We had below budget contractual services expenditures from the normal delay in receiving invoices for both our Inky.org and our Find More Illinois software platforms. We had personnel expenditures that were under budget from just the normal hiring delays for many open administrative and delivery positions that were in various stages of recruitment during July and August. We also had below budget professional services expenditures from timing differences between budgeted and actual consulting, auditing, and legal expenditures. And now that our annual financial report is done, we do expect additional progress billing from Sikich, and we do expect additional progress billing afterwards as work continues on our single audit. We also had below budget travel and continuing education expenditures, and these were just due to timing differences between library visits and travel that were budgeted to happen throughout the year, as well as conferences that had unknown dates at the time that the budget was finalized. We also had below budget supplies, postage, and printing expenditures, and we do have a planned project for organization-wide laptop replacements this fiscal year. And at the time the budget was finalized, we didn't know what month those may land in. So those expenditures were spread throughout the year. I also had below budget vehicle expenditures. This is due to the normal month-long invoicing delay from our fuel card provider, as well as fuel prices remaining at an average of $3.03 per gallon, which is well under the $3.14 per gallon that we had budgeted for fiscal year 2026. So, and these below budget expenditures were partially offset by above budget buildings and ground expenditures, just simply due to the timing of our lease payments for our 3 leased facilities. Through August, salary and L2 enhancement cost have been recorded in the special revenue fund. So that's what's making up the special revenue fund expenditures for August. And soon, so midway through September, if I'm remembering correctly, we received the approval for September 10th. We received the approval for both our L2 and our cataloging grants, as well as our APC grant that funds us as an organization from the state library. So a big thank you to the Secretary of State and a big thank you to the Illinois State Library for making that happen for us. On August 8th, Rails received and paid for the second of 2 box trucks that we had purchased to replace the 2 that we had sold back to the dealership. And in addition, Rail paid a deposit for an updated workstation for the executive assistant's work area and purchased 2 new servers for the migration away from VMware, with the thought that that migration is going to save on some long-term costs for Rails. And I wanted to open it up for any questions about anything that I shared or anything that was in my report or anything that I didn't share that you have questions about.
All right, thank you, Sharon. Moving on to reports. I do not have a president's report. Your packet included the committee reports. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding the committee report? Okay, next we have Monica and the Rails monthly report.
Thank you, Gwen. And so as you just heard in Sharon's financial report, the very first thing we of course wanted to reiterate is our deep thanks to the Office of the Secretary of State and State Librarian Alexi Janulius, as well as the Illinois State Library for the granting of reviewing the annual application and plan of service and finding the application and plan of service to be compliant. In addition, as Sharon mentioned, our special grants for L2 and cataloging were also approved. We thank them very much and look forward to continuing to work together on so many things that we work on. I'm going to give you a little bit of an additional legislative update for Illinois in addition to what you saw in your packet because as you may have seen, the Illinois Library Association released their legislative priorities for this year. But if you don't mind, I'll just hold it until we get into that part of the packet. But we did want to start a little bit with just some updates that are happening on the federal level. So you may have seen that there has been some movement on the position of Register of Copyrights Shira Perlmutter. Originally on July 30th, a federal judge declined to reinstate Shira Perlmutter into her position, but she did then file an emergency motion. And on Wednesday, September 10th, the federal appeals court did rule that she can continue to serve in her post, despite the White House's claim that she was fired because 2 of the 3 judges ruled that she is housed in the legislative branch and her primary role is to serve Congress. And so she is then protected from dismissal. On September 22nd, there was a new filing from the DOJ defending their ability to fire her, but she is currently back at work and serving. So that's the most current update we have on that particular position. In terms of the budget, as you all noted, and we talked about last month on July 31st, a bipartisan group of US senators rejected cuts to education and libraries, including the recommendation of nearly full funding for IMLS and the Department of Education. On September 2nd, a House subcommittee also included a recommendation to fund the IMLS at that same level. That's $291.8 million. That is the same figure that the Senate identified. So they are in agreement. A modest increase of $400,000 was also included for LSTA in those budget recommendations. What happens next is up to many of us because we really don't know exactly what will happen with the September 30th deadline fast approaching. As you may have seen, the House did vote for that 7-week extension that would delay the deadline for passage until the end of November, but the Senate has refused to advance that. So we are now still looking at that September 30th, which may result in a shutdown. Lots of articles and other things you can look at on that issue. In addition, we have told you before about the 2018 Museum and Library Service Act. That's the legislation through which most federal library support comes through, is up for reauthorization on October 1st. Now, in a recent article from Words and Money, this came out on September 5th, the ALA Deputy Director for Public Policy and Advocacy, Kevin Maher, did say that Congress can continue to fund libraries in the IMLS, even if the MLSA authorization expires expires, that particular expiration doesn't change the status of the agency as long as there is still support for IMLS within Congress and they continue to fund the program. So that is, again, according to that article from Words and Money that was linked in your report. They did also note in that same article that there was a significant increase in the number of lawmakers signing on to this year's Dear Appropriator letters, which is also a good sign of the support for the agency and for libraries. So that is sort of the report that I have to share with you on the federal level. But there are also some great updates on the Illinois level. So I did attend the Illinois Library Association's Public Policy Committee meeting as ex officio in Bloomington on August 25th. That particular meeting is the meeting where that committee goes through all of the submitted legislation proposals that come from across the Illinois Library Association membership. That committee then determined their priorities to share with the ILA Executive Board, and the ILA Executive Board then met on the 18th to discuss those. So yesterday, ILA did release a list of those priorities, and I'm just going to share those with you today so that you are aware. The first one is one that you may be interested in because it affects Rails and our financial situation. So that one is to increase the library system area and per capita grant, the public per capita and the school district grants by 20%. That increase is to reflect changes in inflation over the last 5 years. And so that was a request coming from there. Again, we know there are lots of financial considerations at the state level, but this is just something that is being proposed from the ILA Executive Committee, and we'll watch that with some interest. Next is a proposal that was actually submitted by Rails Associate Executive Director Joe Philippek. This is a proposal to require public library trustee training. This is based on some laws that were in New York and New Jersey, but there are other laws across the country also requiring some level of trustee training in other states, and even here in Illinois, in some other types of local government, including for schools, there is a requirement for trustees to receive some level of annual training. So that was recommended by the ILA Executive Board, and we are certainly in support of that and would love to see that move forward. So hope to have many updates on that moving forward. There was also a priority for open educational resources funding. That is the Public Policy Committee supporting a $3 million proposal to support faculty in creating open educational resource materials. Last year, Carly received an IMLS grant to pilot its open educational resource initiative, and that OER funding would be part of, under this proposal, the OER funding would be part of the Secretary of State's budget, be a reoccurring $3 million grant and would be made available to all schools in higher education per ILLINAT. Finally, the last priority is to make ebooks equitable and accessible. This is related to the cost of ebooks to Illinois libraries. In particular, very closely, we've been watching some of the legislation that was passed in Connecticut that had a trigger clause for another state serving at least 7 million people to enact similar legislation. There is currently legislation in place potentially for passage in New Jersey, and there are some other states looking at this, but Illinois is also going to be looking at some possibilities moving forward. Our own team here of Anna Beam and Layla Heath have been working on some talking points to create an advocacy piece that will be shared at the upcoming ILA legislative meetups. In addition to that particular legislative agenda, the Public Policy Committee is also working on other proposals and recommendations, including forming a study group on personal property replacement tax disbursements. This is something that our City Libraries Networking Group has been greatly interested in. So we're certainly watching where that goes. And then also to form a study group on FOIA. So that would, there were 2 proposals actually that came before PPC this year about potential changes that they would like to see to FOIA. So PPC will have a subcommittee to kind of look at recommendations around FOIA to recommend to the legislator moving forward. So I'll stop there just to start with those 2 pieces on state and federal legislation, just to ask if there are any initial questions or comments.
Just to comment, some of this very well needed. So I'm really glad to see that these are moving forward.
Yes, Rob.
So as a trustee, what type of training? I'm not objecting to that. I just don't know. I mean, we have to do the FOIA, the Open Meetings Act training. So what else would it be?
So this remains to be seen a bit because the legislation itself would need to be crafted. But what has been proposed is just some number of hours that would be attributed, and then training that trustees would have to receive some number of hours of training. That could be within their meetings where they received a level of training, or it could be on their own. The iLead trustee training portal, which the Illinois Heartland Library System administers, would certainly be one great option for trustees who are looking for training that they wanted to take free of charge, but there would certainly be many other opportunities for training like ILA's Trustee Day that's coming up in October that would qualify on something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, and I think the discussion has been around determining exactly how many hours are right. Of course, state by state, it's very different. Some states have 4 hours, some states have 6 hours, but it's some level of that in terms of the number of hours annually that would be required if this were to be passed. Okay, I will move just into the remainder of the Rails report. I did, of course, want to highlight our brand new resource sharing map. You were able to see some of that from Grant Halter, and we were able to roll that out to Rails members at our member update. And then Grant and Jessica gave a really great presentation on September 24th to our members. I think it's a really wonderful resource. And if you haven't had the opportunity to take a look at it and see all of the different types of reports and things that you can pull, I would highly encourage it. One of the things we're really looking forward to with this map is that we can continue to develop it and enhance it over time. So while what we see now, we're really proud of, we know that we'll be able to continue to add features. And there are plenty of features that members are already requesting. And so we will add things as we can. We also wanted to highlight that Rails is newly collaborating with Dr. Colin Reinsmith on digital inclusion. Our own Ann Slaughter, Grant Halter, and Jeanette Jarucki have begun a collaboration with Dr. Colin Reinsmith, who is a professor and director of the Digital Equity Action Research Lab at the School of Information Sciences at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. We're really looking forward to this collaboration as we think it will continue to offer great ways to look at all the work that's happening around digital inclusion and digital equity in Illinois within the Rails team, as well as the many other projects that we are doing, including our Cook County Digital Navigator Network. That partnership recently kicked off, and you may have seen out there that we are now looking for guiding team applications. So that process is going to be moving forward really quickly. It feels like we've been talking about this for a few months, but now it's happening in earnest. So we are really thrilled to see where this goes and to see the kind of wonderful things that suburban Cook County libraries can do in interest of digital equity. We also have a new Narcan in Libraries resource. Rails has a new Pulse page that kind of pulled together all of the things that we have pulled together around this new legislation, Public Act 104-056, which was signed by Governor Pritzker. Ansel Glink also created a memo and FAQ about all the things libraries might want to know about how to be compliant. Again, that law goes into effect on January 1st, so libraries have a little bit of time to figure that out. We have a training upcoming in November with Live for Lolly that they will offer training as well as offer some opportunity to learn about how libraries can receive Narcan kits ahead of time. We also want to make sure that you are aware that ILA library legislative meetup dates have been announced. Central Illinois has a meeting in Bloomington on November 19th in the morning, while Northwest Illinois and DeKalb has one in the afternoon, also on November 19th. South Suburban in Chicago in Alsip will be on December 2nd. West Suburban in Chicago in Oak Brook will also be on December 2nd in the afternoon. And then North Suburban in Chicago, Northbrook will be in the morning on December 3rd. I highly encourage you to attend these. If you are not already attending on behalf of your home library and you have an interest in attending on behalf of Rails, please let Stacy or myself know and we would be happy to register you. These are great opportunities to talk about those Illinois legislative priorities that I mentioned earlier, but also to talk about the work of Rails, share some of the things that are happening at a federal level, or some of the things we've been talking about in advocacy or related to some of these federal issues that we've shared. I think they would be very interested to hear it. We also wanted to make sure you know that RSA has been approved to join IMRF, the pension system. This is something that was very important to the staff there. And so we are really thrilled that in advance of their independence transition that they have already been approved to move forward. That'll make that transition easier for everyone. And then I wanted to call your attention to the top 3 things that we noted for this month at Rails. So first is that the iCamp mentoring program is moving into its 2nd year. That's an opportunity to bring together catalogers who are sort of veteran catalogers to train mentees who are newer to the process. We also are hosting a month-long L2 sign-up contest. Everybody who's associated with Rails should have an L2 account. It's how you get all of the information that you need to know all of the great things that Rails can offer. So I would encourage you to please go back to your libraries and make sure your fellow trustees or your staffs are all signed up for those L2 accounts. And if they sign up this month in September, they're eligible to receive a $100 Visa card. We're doing a drawing after the end of the month with all those new folks who signed up. And then finally, we are thrilled about a $150,000 content boost for eRead Illinois. So as you know, in the budget that you all passed, we budgeted for Rails to add an additional $100,000 of that content in addition to what members themselves pay for. But now Baker and Taylor, the vendor, has also offered an additional $50,000 worth of ebooks and audiobooks to kind of add to that collection. So again, a really great and wonderful program. Over 900 libraries participate in that. Rails covers the platform fees and does all of the selection. So all of the money that libraries pay to go into it goes directly into materials. And now there's this original or additional supplement as well. So we're really proud of that and wanted to make sure to share it with you. So that is the Rails report for this month. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, Monica. And we'll now report on the LSAP support grant.
Yeah, see it. Let me get you a chair.
Thank you. No problem. Squeeze in. Comfy. Hello, everyone. So we wanted to let you know about one of our 2 grant programs that we use to support the LSAPs. That fun acronym stands for Local Library System Automation Program. It is one of the 6 resource sharing consortia, or all of the 6 resource sharing consortia that we have within the Rails service area. And I think many of you are representing libraries that are members of one of them. So, supporting these organizations is critical to the existence of regional library systems and, very much to our mission of connecting libraries, expanding resource sharing. So much of the interlibrary loan delivery activity is due to the sharing that happens within and among these groups. The membership numbers shift a little bit every year, but across the 6 groups, which vary significantly in size from like 6 members to 150. Roughly a third of our member libraries, it is mostly public libraries, but most of them are also multi-type. So I will be covering a lot more about these organizations, kind of who they are, the details of like our relationships with them, kind of the context for that, and the full scope of the ways that we support them. But for today, we really wanted you to be aware of this grant process that we currently have in process, so that you're not surprised about how we got here, because it is a significant aspect of our annual budget. So this program we call it the LSAP Support Grant. It distributes $2.25 million per year to support the LSAP's operations in various ways. And you can see there's a memo in your packet, and then following that are the 6 annual reports on their fiscal 2025 grants. So you can see kind of the huge range of the activities that these organizations do for their members and the ways that they use our funding to help kind of support the services that their members are getting and their own organizational capacities. So a little bit about kind of the timing of this process. We're currently reviewing their applications for fiscal 2027 funding, which I know sounds very early. We're still talking about fiscal 25. But this process is timed to get them the information that they need about their grant awards before their budgets have to be final. Their budget processes are a lot longer than ours because they are member governed, and that makes the approval process longer. It has to go through more bodies. So their processes are well underway by late October, which is when we announce the awards to them. That's obviously kind of disparate from the Rails budget timeline. We're usually well underway with our own budget process in about March. The LSAPs are all aware of this. The awards are clearly conditioned on the availability of funding. But they do get, it's kind of the first piece that we spell out that will then get incorporated into the fiscal 27 budget when we get to the point of putting that together. So the way that we determine the allocations from within that $2.25 million, we use data that we collect as a part of the application process. And then we have a formula that we use to calculate their allocation based on kind of a variety of factors about their organizations and memberships. Most of that funding is issued as quarterly payments to them, which you can see in the contractual services section of the budget. Sharon covers it in her narrative reports. For RSA and Prairie Cat, portions of their awards are actually provided as services from Rails. So we estimate the costs for providing those services, and then that cost gets deducted from their allocation. And then those costs are reflected accordingly throughout our budget, depending on the services, which include for both of those groups, finance services. And then for RSA, they're in our East Peoria facility. And then, as you know, currently staffed by Rails, but will not be as of as of January 1. But for fiscal 27, that's not a factor. It's a big effort every year, very cross-departmental collaboration to get all of this information put together and communicated to them between Sharon, Grant, Monica, Mary Kate with admin support, IT facilities, all contributing information. So there's a lot to it, but we wanted to give you this overview. Happy to answer questions, or if you're interested in seeing any additional materials, I'd be happy to share them with you.
All right, well, thank you, Anne. Next is the Rails Service of the Month and Mark Hatch.
All righty, good afternoon. Just bear with me for 1 second while I get set up here. Okay, great. My apologies for the delay there. I'm Mark Hatch. I am the Director of Facilities and Delivery for Rails. I've got about 40 years of logistics experience, servicing large and small, organizations. 26 of those years were in the armored car industry. The last 13 years, I've been here at Rails for focusing on streamlining the operation, building a system that's efficient, cost-effective, simple, and scalable. This is actually, since I do wear 2 hats, this is our facility summary that I like to share each year. This couple of important things on this. This is also in your packet because I know it's extremely difficult to read off of the screen. A couple of things to point out here is there's 2 buildings on here in which Rails owns, and that's the Burr Ridge and the Coal Valley properties. Everything else is actually a lease property. This is a really cool document because it provides you the information on our lease costs, traditional monthly operating costs, square footage of the service centers, and it's broken down also as far as if there's shared space, how much is delivery, and then how much is office space. I like to describe our operation 5 easy, simple ways, hybrid system of in-house and outsourced delivery. Simple process, user-friendly, efficient, and statewide focus. I'll touch on each one of these areas over the next couple of slides. As I just mentioned, outsourced vendor is Continental Transport Logistics, CTL for short. They actually service 122 of our libraries on a daily basis on average. They also process about 4 million items annually of that 8.2 million items that we did in FY 2025. To the right, our in-house locations are the Bow Ridge, Coal Valley, East Peoria, and Rockford, where we service about 236 locations each day. User-friendly, predetermined route. Predetermined routes. We service between 500 and 600 libraries per day. That's including the 109 Carly, which academic and van on demand locations with predetermined routes throughout the city. We have about 30 to 31 routes that we send out on a daily basis. This also gives me opportunity to predetermine what my costs are going to be. So I know well in advance what it's going to cost us to actually provide the service to all the libraries. The best way for libraries to communicate with us is through our help desk. It's as simple as sending an email to Rails Delivery, at railslibraries.org. It's a great system that tracks the communication to and from the library. So once you submit the ticket, that ticket remains out there. So all of that information remains within our system. And the best way for us to communicate to the libraries is via our route email strings. Each library on a route is attached to an email route stream. So if there's a route delay of any kind, if there's weather delays, delays as far as a vehicle breakdown or something of that nature, we have the ability to communicate that to the library. What's most important is the library has to tell us they would like to receive emails from us. So that's the most important thing. Periodically, we send out communication stating that we need you to update your system delivery contact information. And that is so that I can communicate with you. Efficient routing. Some of you might remember we've had a relationship with the Legacy LASA Group, which is now GeoMark from the Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville. They have some really outstanding software that we like to piggyback on. They vet our routes, they vetted our locations where our service centers are at to make sure that the locations are in the proper location to service our members. We also use a product called CDP, Community Delivery Partnership. This is a great service that I really truly like. What it does, it partners two libraries or multiple libraries to one location. This allows smaller libraries to actually have their delivery sent to a larger library that's entitled to 5-day-a-week delivery, which in turn allows them to have 5-day-a-week delivery. We do have some criteria that both libraries have to agree to, whereas the host library the host library has to contact the partner. They have to then agree to come retrieve their information, their material. So we keep that within a 5-mile radius. So it's a great product. It also not only increases the number of deliveries that a smaller library can receive, it also helps me because I can now take stops off of the route, which also saves taxpayer dollars, So one of the things that we determined was we really needed to know how many times should we service a library. And that is actually determined by the frequency, their delivery frequency, by their volume. That is how we determine how often we go to a location. So I encourage everyone to go to our delivery webpage, and it actually has a chart there that states, You know, if you have between 1 and 25 deliveries per week, you're entitled to XYZ number of deliveries per week. So it's a great chart that libraries can go back and reference to actually see what they're entitled to. Also, speaking of efficiency, we just met with a warehouse efficiency expert, Supply Velocity, you know, to see if there's a possibility that they can, if we can gain additional efficiency within our Bolingbrook operation. Our Bolingbrook operation is our largest operation within the system, where we process about 6 million items just out of that one facility. So gaining any, you know, efficiency is definitely worth it, you know, so it's definitely worth the money to investigate anything that we can do. Once we find something that works there, I'm big on standardization. We would then spread that out to the other service centers and gain additional efficiencies system-wide. So I'm looking forward to that report. We just met with them on Monday of this week. So probably within the next couple of weeks, we should have some type of report with recommendations on what they believe that we can actually implement.
Mark, can I bother you before I forget?
Yeah.
When you were saying about how often the libraries got delivery was based on their volume, is that what if their volume changes week to week? Does their amount of deliveries change week to week, or do you just look at it quarterly or yearly or?
Yeah, I can't change it that often. You know, we have to look at it on an annual basis. We do look at it on an annual basis, primarily because I need to see a consistent pattern. I need to see consistency, you know, before we can actually make a change, because a change could be very costly. Because if I'm increasing, you know, the number of days that they're receiving service, and that just happened to be a blimp, you know.
Right, and then the drivers too wouldn't have anything to do if you kept cutting their. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Driving them in circles.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep. Good question. Thank you. Okay, what we've got on the screen here is the 3 authorized delivery labels, you know, that we utilize within Rails. To the left there at the top is the Rails label. That's either you can use it as a self-adhesive label, or we also have it as a writable PDF. We also have the academic, the Carly IODS academic label. That is their own label. And then also the Find More Illinois label. That is it. Those are the only 3 labels that have been authorized to go through delivery. Anything else, we will return to the sender. As far as automation, you know, we started a couple of years ago using iPads to capture our delivery data. You know, this is great. It works out perfect for us. You know, before we had lots of information, but it was on paper, sitting in a box, and we really couldn't utilize it. So now with the actual use of the iPads, now I can go in and pull up a library's delivery frequency, pull up their number of bins that they've received, or we've dropped off, or something like that. You know, so it's a great system, you know, that our in-house IT department put together for us. So it's all customized information that really works out great for us. Also, as you know, to service your libraries, we have to have library data. All of your library data is also secured within that iPad as well. So when the driver gets there, he can put in his code, which would then release the information to go into the alarm code is XYZ. You go in the green door, you go in the back step. All of that information is also, you know, housed within that iPad as well. The dreaded delivery count. 4 times a year, we do require the libraries to count all of the information that is being sent out in their blue delivery bins. We need that data primarily because of the fact that it helps us determine what our annual numbers are. You know, it is so important, you know, that you help us with that. You know, and we only ask for it 4 times a year, which is usually in February, May, August, and then in November. So you get some time between, to where you can rest up for the next one. So it's great. We definitely need that. We're hoping one day, we can eliminate the actual physical count, but we're not there yet. So hopefully one day we will have that capability.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can you go back to the last slide? I don't understand the bullet point, important not to use totals from your ILS. I'm a
Yes.
new board member, so I'm still struggling with the abbreviations.
Okay.
Meeting library system.
Thank you. The integrated library system, that is the software that's at the library, that those numbers may differ than the actual physical number of items within the blue delivery bin. And that's
Got it.
why majority of the time.
That helps.
Okay, great. All right, sounds good. So what we've got here on this particular chart here is the volume that we've actually transported in FY 2025, 8.2 million items. That's a lot of material that's moved on an annual basis in a manual system. So this is why it's so important that if we can gain additional efficiencies, it's important that we do so, because we're dealing with a lot of material. So what I really like about this chart is it's breaking it down by each one of the legacy systems, and it's broken down by the 4 quarters. So each one of my service centers, I know for a fact exactly what their volume is, based off of how the count is done 4 times a year. So it's great information.
Just gonna say, can you explain to them which ones are part of Bolingbrook so that they
Yes.
understand?
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
The ones that are part of Bolingbrook, and I'll break it down like this: Burr Ridge is part of Bolingbrook, but it's actually serviced by our delivery vendor, CTL. Also Geneva, Sherwood, and Wheeling. So those 4 legacy systems are all serviced out of the Bolingbrook Service Center. The other ones are naturally the Coe Valley, the Rockford, and East Peoria are also serviced out of those particular locations.
And I would just know for anybody who isn't aware of like the whole statewide delivery, like there's about 11 million plus items moving through delivery statewide. So Rails covers, you can see that 8.2 million of those.
Great. This is just some stats I wanted to share. The number of stops that we actually serviced in FY 25, 104,000 stops we completed, drove almost 1 million miles. And like I said, just 8.2 million items. Our territory is 27,000 square miles. We do this with staff of 48 individuals. Our budget, we spent $4.3 million. So that's giving us an average of about 53 cents an item. So I think we do a pretty darn good job, to keep our costs, as low as possible. We try our best to, anywhere possible we can find efficiency, we actually try and take advantage of that. Yes,
Emailed to us.
I'm sorry?
We get either the whole presentation or just at least that chart emailed.
Oh, sure. I'm sure we can do the whole presentation. Sure. Great. Yep. No problem at all. Statewide focus, this chart, I love this chart because it breaks down exactly, if you can see the top cream color at the very top there, those 4 blue dots are the 4 locations that Rails has their service. And then that pinkish area to the top right, that's the Chicago Public Library System. And then the blue area to the bottom is the Hartman Library System. The red dot is where we actually meet on a daily basis in the middle of the night to exchange material between the library systems. Literally, we meet up at 8:30 every night to exchange material. This belongs to you, this belongs to you. Then we return that material back to the service centers. And because of the fact that with the Carly academic locations, we're contracted to deliver that work within 24 hours, that was necessary to do that. So what we do is we then return that material back to our service centers, sort it down so that that next morning at 5, 6 in the morning, that material is then being shuttled right to the appropriate delivery point destination.
Where is that red dot?
That's in Champaign, Illinois. You said-
It used to be at like a Kohl's or a Lowe's or something like that.
Wow, you remember that. Okay. When I first started here, we actually did this exchange in the middle of a parking lot. You know, in the elements, and I said, this makes no sense. It was difficult, you know, the police would show up and say, what are you guys doing? Hey, right. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, we used to meet in a parking lot, yes.
Where do you meet now, though?
Yeah, now we meet at Champaign at the Heartland Service Center in Champaign, Illinois. Yeah. One of the things that we also did was we created training videos, you know, because we know there's turnover within the libraries. And we thought these training videos would be very beneficial because you can utilize these to help you train your staff on dealing with us, you know, on how to prepare the material, you know, how to look up items within L2, how to populate the delivery label, you know. So those are a lot of the things that we said, you know, this could actually help the libraries and in essence, turn around, help us too, you know. So these training videos are readily available. They're on our delivery webpage, and I encourage everybody to go out and go into the Rails website, and then just circle down to delivery, and all of this information is literally out there, you know, at your disposal. You know, one of the things that I always, you know, like to share some of the challenges and things that we're looking forward to as an organization. You know, fluctuating fuel costs, staffing, rent, salaries, always major concerns for us. You know, just hiring and retaining good staff is always very challenging. You know, this is not the type of operation that I can hire somebody at 20 years old and then 45 years later they're retiring. Because this is a very manual operation, you know, we have to expect there's going to be turnover within our operation. We've accepted that because it is very physical amount of work that is done on a daily basis by our staff. So they do a great job. We do have some extremely long-term employees, believe it or not, you know, but I don't expect a person to walk in the door and then retire 45 years later. A simplified data collection, that's where I said, hopefully, you know, we can eventually figure out a way to where the delivery count could be eliminated, which I would love for that to happen. I know the libraries would love to have that to happen as well. And then statewide collaboration, you know, I think it's so important that we, you know, if we have information that we can share amongst each other, which is Rails, Heartland, the Illinois State Library, Carly, you know, academic, you know, because we get together every quarter and we share information. I think that's the best way to go because of the fact that why reinvent the wheel? You know, especially if I've got something that works, you might as well utilize it too. And I have no problem stealing your idea, you know, to make it work within Rails as well. So I think it's a great way for us to collaborate as a state. And then these are just some of the resources just showing you where I've got a lot of my data from. You know, feel free to look at that. And then I'm more than willing to answer any questions or whatever you may have. Yes, ma'am.
So a couple of things that I wrote down here. I love those training videos. I think that's really great because, you know, like you said, our library staff turns over just like you have turnover.
Oh.
So being able to refer new staff to those videos can be, I think, extremely helpful. So thank you for that. My other question, I know you mentioned kind of, is there a way we can, you know, do this count more easily? How many of the libraries have RFID? I know we don't, right? But we're going there. And so, you know, with tagging, is that something that could make it easier? Again, there's a lot of libraries I know that don't have that. So that could be a challenge to that, but I'd just be interested in hearing if you know how many.
I have no idea the number of libraries have RFID, you know, because of the fact that we're a manual system, we would overlook that particular tag. You know, if we switched over to an automated system where there's a material handler, you know, then I would have a better understanding, you know, because I would then be able to utilize that on the automated handling machine. But currently in our manual operation, I don't know what goes on at the library. Yes. Yes.
And then my last question is around, I know you do, like you said, all of these deliveries everywhere to so many different libraries. How do you get access in and out of the buildings? Like, I know you start, some of your drivers start really early, right?
Yes.
And how do you manage that process with ensuring that they're getting access to the building? And I know there are procedures in place that we try to use when we're gonna be closed that day. Please let Rails know so they know to
Right.
come. How are you tracking that, just for other people who may not be aware of what that process is?
Well, we have keys to 90% of the libraries. We don't have any keys to an academic location. So the 109 academic locations I have to service during the day. But you're 100% correct. Some of our routes do start at 5 a.m, you know, which is way before a library staff is going to go in. So I have keys, alarm codes. I have access. All of that information is stored within the iPad and then also stored within our safe within the hubs. So we keep all of that stuff secure within the operation. Then it goes out on route. So let's say, for instance, Route 1, I'm just, you know, being very general. Route 1 goes out, it has 12 libraries on that route. It could have 12 keys on that ring. They take the key off of that location, they go in and service the location, they return the key, you know, back to the ring. They then turn those keys in at the end of the day. You know, so they stay within the service center, you know, each and every day. But yes, I do have keys to majority of my libraries because yes, we do go there at some very strange hours. And we thank you for that, you know, because it, you know, it helps. It helps with efficiency, exactly, because sometimes starting at, you know, at 4 a.m, 5 a.m, you know, there is less traffic.
I feel like I always love hearing your presentation, Mark, because it just reminds us, and you use that perfect word, manual. You know, this, how many hands, right? When I hand a book over to a reader that I got from wherever, the number of hands that book went through from point A to point D is sort of, it's sort of mind boggling. And not only, I mean, you're so good about efficiency, but I'm thinking about accuracy on the way. Like, how many people had to do the right thing for this book to get to my reader? My question, so anyway, yay for that. And I think I'm like Carolyn, you know, when you see that slide with all those numbers on there, like, it just sort of like makes your eyes, you know, just go so wide. So we greatly appreciate this amazing, you know, statewide delivery service that we have. My question comes with Find More Illinois, right? As you hear, you know, 800,000 items from Northern Illinois University are now available for lending. How is the increase in Find More Illinois membership going to impact delivery?
It's not going to that much because of the fact that I'm going to those libraries already.
Okay.
You know, and the way we look at it from a processing standpoint, you know, we have staffing models. So if I need to increase because of the volume increase, I will see that.
Okay.
But that takes a while. That takes a while. And the way we've got our staffing levels now, we have a little cushion,
Okay.
you know, factored in to, you know, to those cycles and things like that, you know, to absorb that. Because keep in mind now, you know, even like within the summertime, our volume goes down a little bit, you know, slightly, not much, but it goes down a little bit because a lot of the academic locations are closed, you know, other locations are closed, things of that nature. So we factored that in when we're looking at that, when we're building our staffing models, and each one of our service centers are staffed the exact same way. So they can handle an influx of additional material. But yeah, piece of cake.
Good.
Mr. Hatch,
Go ahead, Rob.
Yes.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's hard to see who's talking. So do we have our own mechanics that maintain our vehicles?
No, we do not. No, we do not. Because we're spread out over 4 different, actually 5 if we include Burr Ridge, you know, we actually just utilize local mechanics to maintain our vehicle. You know, we don't have an in-house type of mechanics or anything of that nature. I dealt with that in the armored car industry, you know, working at Brinks, you know, that's a nightmare, you know.
So do
That's
we
absolutely a
use
nightmare.
regular delivery trucks or regular delivery vans? I mean, would they look like any other truck or van that's on the road?
Yeah, we use several different type of vehicles. We utilize the Ford Transit. Which is a traditional vehicle that replaced the Ford E350, 300 series vans. And then we also use box trucks, you know, all the way up to like a 16-footer with a lift gate, some without lift gates, you know, depending on the number of libraries on the route, the amount of material that has to be transported. So those are the type of vehicles that we're utilizing are the Ford Transits and then also the box trucks.
The reason I ask those questions are I'm on the board of a agency here in Peoria that serves developmentally disabled individuals. And we had a proposal to the board that we didn't have mechanics either. And somebody had to keep track of which vehicle was going which direction. I mean, this is a much more on-demand service than what you have. There's not regular scheduled routes because we have people who live all over the area. And we take them to doctor's appointments and social activities and all that kind of stuff. So our CFO suggested that we had to replace some vehicles, and the CFO suggested that we look at leasing the vehicles from Enterprise. And these are just regular passenger vans. They're not equipped for people in wheelchairs with lifts and all that kind of stuff. Enterprise would do that, but they then maintain all of them. They, you know, if there's an accident and it has all the current equipment on it, so the safety equipment, the backup cameras and the little things that flash in your rear view mirrors and all that kind of stuff. And we believe at this point, we will save significant amounts of money over the 5-year lease, and then we can refresh the vehicles. So I just was wondering if, and I realize it's a completely different kind of delivery system. You're delivering books, not people. But have we ever looked at the option of leasing from somebody who does fleet management all the time?
Yes. We investigated that quite a few years ago. And also our sister library system, the Heartland Library System, actually went through with the service. They were not very happy with the lease setup, primarily with when vehicles broke down, you know, getting a replacement vehicle. There was a lot of challenges on their side. I'm not sure how that would work within your environment, but from a rails perspective, I have spare vehicles already, you know, factored in, you know, to where if the vehicle breaks down, you know, I can replace that vehicle within the matter of minutes versus having to request a vehicle from the from Enterprise, retrieve it, or they drop it off and things of that nature. So Heartland wasn't very happy with it, you know, and that we actually figured that from what the type of service that we're actually providing, it wouldn't work for us either. You know, and so I was glad that to have that information, and it sort of, you know, confirmed our analysis when we actually were investigating that as well. You know, so
I just thought I'd ask the question. You're the logistics expert, not me. So I'm perfectly happy with that answer.
Great, thank you.
Mark, I hope your drivers, you know, when I wave like crazy, whenever I pass a rails van, they'll be like, yep, there's another one. You guys all do that too.
I do.
Whenever I see a rails delivery, I'm like.
So we have 40 vehicles within our fleet, by the way, you know, that we utilize, and we utilize almost every one of them every day, you know, making sure.
The depreciation too.
I'm sorry?
We're depreciating these vehicles as well.
Yeah. And when we look at we've actually replaced 75%, 60%. Yeah, of all of our vehicles, you know, because before when we had with the pandemic, we couldn't get vehicles and then there was a huge backlog so we're at a point now where we're looking good, as far as our repair costs has gone down. One of the things that we did notice though, is that we were remaking repairs sooner than we were before, which is not good. Instead of me getting 60,000 miles before I need a brake job, it was now going to 30,000. So that was the only unfortunate part, and that is, the quality of the vehicle itself, where we were a little disappointed in that, keeping it at the 50,000-60,000 range before we started to experience things, I can stretch my costs out even further.
That's true of anything though. We still have my grandmother's fridge in the basement that will never die. My brand new fridge will only last maybe 2 years. I think that's the way it is in a lot of things.
Yeah.
I just want the opportunity to know. So delivery is one of the things that when I came to Rails from the public library world in 2020 was like the most completely foreign to me in terms of being able to understand it. And I think you can hear from Mark's presentation how much goes into delivery in terms of the logistics that are needed, the efficiencies that are created, and the innovations that have happened over the years to continue to kind of tweak this process and just make it work. One of the things we found in these IMLS interviews that we did, it was the magic of delivery, and then when we really broke down to some of these reporters about what goes into this delivery process and that these materials are going, door to door within 48 hours, is an incredible thing. But beyond all of the amazing logistics things that Mark has done, he's also a leader nationally. I think he's too humble to talk about this part of it, but he also presented at the iCult conference this year about delivery, physical delivery, and is really considered an expert and receives calls from anybody across the country who's really looking at their own delivery operations for some of the things that he has done. And in addition to that, one of the things we always talk to our delivery drivers about is when it comes to Rails, we do a lot here, but most of our libraries, that delivery driver is the person that they know from Rails. That is their experience with Rails. So not only are these folks extremely efficient, but they are so kind and they have such great relationships with our members because of these daily interactions. And so we really rely on them, not just for all the efficiencies and logistics that Mark has built, but also for the way that he has built that team to make sure that they have these positive relationships with the folks that they're serving. So I really want to commend him for that and make sure that you all understand all the parts that go into that process.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Right.
I have one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know you mentioned that you don't have keys to the academic libraries.
Yes.
Is that an issue? Is that something we should work on?
No,
No, it's
no,
okay.
primarily because the contract states between 8 and 5.
Oh, okay.
If I could deliver it at 4 a.m, I would, but the contract states 8 to 5.
Oh, well, I suppose when you negotiate a new contract. I know academic libraries depend on it so much that I'm sure many of them would be happy to have it come at a different time if that might work better for you.
It's challenging on a couple of different fronts because of the fact that the library may give me a key, but the university may not. I still have to be able to get into the university to get to the library. So that's where it becomes extremely challenging as well. So we've just come to the realization that we probably won't get a key to an academic location, because of those additional logistics, challenges that we would run into, so.
You could probably have a key to our library.
Oh, I appreciate that. And we'll be there at 4 a.m.
Yes, like at 8 o'clock or right before 8 o'clock.
Any other questions, concerns?
We were gonna invite your driver to our all staff day. More deliveries.
Outstanding, great. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll now go to Mandy Saya for the report from the State Library.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for having me today, guys. It's good to see everyone. Mark, that was an awesome presentation. It was so fun. I loved learning all about that. So the Illinois State Library has been sharing information regarding the driving change town hall meetings that Secretary Juniulius is having around the state to encourage public library staff, patrons, and board members to participate. The most recent town hall took place in Peoria, and more are anticipated for the greater Rockford and Springfield regions. Public libraries within the same county and surrounding counties are receiving notices when a town hall is scheduled near them. And Secretary Juniulius and the Illinois State Library recently awarded $28.3 million in grants for library and literacy services across the state. And this, of course, includes funding for the regional library systems. And we are currently receiving and processing applications for the school district library grants. To date, we have received 266 applications out of the 714 school districts that are eligible to apply, but they still have some time. The application due date is October 15th. The library development staff are in the process of reviewing the 48 Project Next Generation applications that we received for FY26. These were, of course, delayed because of the uncertainty with the federal funding this year, and we did not know whether it would be feasible for us to fund that program. So we are really excited that we are able to award the P&G grants for another year. And I had a bunch of things to say about federal funding, but Monica covered all that for me. So thank you very much. You probably said it better than I could have. And so the new public library per capita and equalization grant, we have a new application this year. And that is, of course, to incorporate those new public library standards that were recently adopted by the Illinois Library Association. We are finalizing that application right now, and we anticipate announcing the opening of the application process sometime in October. So if you do I've been getting a lot of questions from public library directors asking when they can anticipate that. So we'll send out an email blast when that's all ready to go. And I will be doing a couple of presentations in October on the 7th and the 21st, so right before and right after ILA. And you can register on L2 for those. And it's basically just to help public libraries transition from what they've been used to applying with those old standards to the new. I know a lot of public libraries have actually begun reviewing the older standards. And so I have created sort of a transition for some of those folks. And so I'll be covering that in those presentations. But of course, people can always reach out to me personally if they can't make it to those. And many of you probably saw information about the recent death of Governor Jim Edgar, who served as the Secretary of State and State Librarian from 1981 to 1991. Earlier this summer, the State Library Illinois Authors Room was rededicated as the Jim Edgar Reading Room. And on Saturday, the State Library had the honor of hosting the Edgar family and guests for a gathering after the funeral services. And finally, the Illinois State Library Advisory Committee will be meeting very soon on October 23rd, 2025. And I think that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you all have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. Next is the annual report with Monica.
Thank you, Gwen. So you did see a copy of the annual report in your packet. It's quite an extensive document, and I know you can imagine all of the work that goes into making sure that all of this reporting is done. Our staff-wide contributes to this document. I especially want to thank the communications team and especially Dan Bostrom for his work in making sure that we're able to report all of the wonderful things that are happening in Rails throughout the year to the Illinois State Library. And so we wanted to share those with you today. I'm only just going to cover the pieces that we wanted to highlight at the beginning of that narrative report, but then I'll open it up in case you have any questions about anything that appear anywhere in the report. But we did want to make sure that you are aware, of course, of the expansion of keeping our Rails Bolingbrook Service Center, which included bringing sorting in-house. Mark just talked to you a little bit about some of the changes there. The Rails efforts to keep members informed about changes to the Institute of Museum and Library Services. We really tried to make sure that our advocacy around those issues were really strong this year. Rail's partnership with the Illinois Heartland Library System and the Consortium of Academic and Research Libraries in Illinois, otherwise known as CARLI, around broadband and digital equity. Some really great efforts that had come together around that this year. The release of our new report, Illinois Libraries Agencies of Impact, which we talk about a lot and has a lot of really great stats about the value that libraries bring to the state of Illinois. If you haven't seen that report, it is available on the Rails website, or we could make sure that you had a physical copy as well, but it's a wonderful one for being able to talk about libraries and what they bring to our state. The premiere of our new school library podcast, Can't Shelve This. Can't Shelve This is really popular with school libraries, and not just in Illinois, really across the country. There's lots of people really talking about the school library experience and what that is. So if you want to get a better understanding of what school libraries are facing or the issues that are important to them, I'd highly encourage you to check out that. The creation of a new professional development format, Rails Learning Labs, the rebranding of a statewide Explore More Illinois program in coordination with Heartland and the Chicago Public Library. We've been really excited to roll out those changes. We also acted as a co-host to the 2025 iCult conference in Chicago. And for the very first time, we had a brand new member-facing Rails annual report this year, which I think our members really appreciated, getting to see things on kind of the calendar basis that we have been up to. But the annual report that you saw here is all organized by our strategic plan and strategic plan goals and objectives to make sure you can see how all the work that we're doing is fitting in with that. And at this point, I would just open it up to you all for comments and questions.
Amazing amount of work that has been done.
We have a truly incredible team here at Rails. I can absolutely tell you that I have never worked with a team with as much commitment to mission and support for the libraries that they serve. Thank you for saying that.
This gets shared with member libraries.
Well, that was part of our reasoning for that, doing that member-facing annual report, is that we could share a lot of the work that was happening in a way that was sort of like readable and snackable, I guess, in a way that people could understand it. But yeah, this kind of a report, while it's available, and things like our board packet that's available on the Rails website, anybody could take a look at it. But that is why we moved in that direction. But great question.
So does that mean there will be another one of those?
Yeah, we're planning for that. Dan's raising his eyebrows at me. It's a lot of work, to put those things together. But I think it's been really important for us to tell Rail's story so that people can really understand what the library systems do and provide in Illinois. And it's an especially important thing in a year like this year, where we've been talking about the importance of federal funding for things like the library systems and making sure that libraries and their communities are aware of really what comes from the library system here.
Well, and it's a great thing for us, like easy to share.
Absolutely.
Easy for them to look at.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. I know how many of you are really engaged in those conversations with members and with your communities about that. Would definitely encourage you to continue to do that as well.
I feel that this annual report truly shows the position that Rails is in as a leader. And I think obviously our members look to us, to like tell us what's going on. But I think yes, fulfilling that 100% and wider too. The partnership with obviously with your sister systems and with other Illinois, library associations. It truly shows the position that Rails is as a leader.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you, Monica, for all your work on this and everyone at Rails. May I have a motion and a second to approve the narrative report to be submitted to the State Library as part of the FY 2025 annual report?
Wilbur, so.
Second, Karen.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Next on the agenda is the board development, which is Grant Halter with the Rails resource sharing map.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Yes, as highlighted earlier by Monica, the Rails resource sharing map has been a big success so far. And I'm here to give a little bit of a demo and kind of a little background of how the project came to be. And yeah, let's dive right into it. Let's screen share real quick. Can I get some nods or yeses that we can see the screen? Okay. So yes, the resource sharing map has been, it's been a long time coming. The original map looked like this. It had been updated a few times, most recently in 2019, which is a static map that looks as it does. But we had other dreams for what this map could be, and that has become this new resource sharing map that is built on the Esri ArcGIS platform, which is a more dynamic mapping tool and platform that will give us a lot of capabilities to not just update and create this map, but build new maps going forward that it sounds like, based on our feedback from the resource sharing map, a lot of people have been craving. So this map is modeled pretty similarly to the original map, with LSAP libraries, public service areas, and non-public library service areas as well as the points for the non-public libraries. Here we have, this is just the kind of the beginnings of the mapping world at Rails. We have gotten lots of requests for school map, legislative district maps, community college maps, all kinds of things, and those will be coming. But this was the first one just to dip our toes in, because it's kind of the most cited map that we use almost at Rails. As always, if you have any questions, comments, have feature requests, or anything about the map, contact myself or communications, and we will get on that. We've been working with the state library a lot on the shape, making it corrections to public library service areas, and that those changes kind of take time. But please everyone keep letting me know if those changes are needed. All right, so for a demo of the map, you can zoom into the map, and you will have labels show up eventually, hopefully. Live demo, let's see, there we go. Okay, we have labels there. You can pan around, similar to a Google map, things that many people are familiar with. Up here, you can search for any entity on the map, as well as regular kind of addresses or locations in the world. If you click on one, you will zoom into that library and it'll give you a little highlight, which then you can click on that and get a little bit of information about that library, what type they are, system, standalone, delivery information, as well as a link to their L2 page, which is really useful, and a list of Rails resource sharing programs they are involved in. Currently, I choose Wheaton because they include all 4 of the programs so far: eRead, Find More, Explore More, and Lincoln. Yeah, so that is the shapes. You can also click on a point library, and that'll give you slightly different information. That'll give you the address as well, similar information with the L2 page and resource sharing programs. We have other layers as well. There's a legend over here, and that'll toggle on and off. I also include the service area, system service areas, just as an overview. You can click those and get a little bit of information, link to the website, address, number of agencies and buildings approximately, and all that, as well as a county overlay here, and those labels will show up. I don't have any fancy pop-up for the counties yet, but plans to have a count for number of libraries by type in each county, and some other basic information that we can show off there. From here, there's also this kind of hidden arrow, which I mean to fix, is an attribute table that will list all of the libraries in the map with some core information similar to the pop-up, but you could export this into an Excel file and use it as you need. Next, we're gonna go to my favorite part, are the filters. And there was one, the last time I was here at the board, I gave a presentation on this. We were missing the iShare filter, so I made sure to include iShare. If I would turn on the buildings, they do show up now by popular demand. But they also do the LSAP, so it'll zoom in and would normally zoom out or zoom back in, and it'll filter just by an LSAP, or you can do that by system to see all these public libraries. As such, reset, and then we have, I think, do page is my demo that you can also filter by county just to get that view, and you can see the attribute table also updates to just the visible libraries. And then finally, you can filter by find more libraries, e-read libraries, explore more libraries, and Lincoln libraries, just to get those visuals. All of these update at this point monthly. As L2 information changes, I'll be updating all the information in the map, as well as plenty of comments that I've gotten so far about map service areas being inaccurate and information just needing updates. But in general, if your L2 information is up to date, then the map should be pretty good as well.
So, Mr. Halter?
Yeah, go ahead.
Should I assume that the areas that are not colored in, there are no libraries there?
Yes, those are unserviced areas
Holy
by the public
crap.
library. Oh, yeah.
No, just ask Catherine about that.
Yes, that's on the list of other maps in the future of focusing on the unserved areas. And you can see, obviously, you can see where the holes are for the public libraries, but the map hits a little different when I invert the filter, and you're just seeing all of that shaded in unserved area. There's more mapping fanciness that we can get into with. We have a loose number of population in that unserved area, but there's other kind of census information that we'd like to overlay to kind of dive into the dynamics of those spaces. And the last two bits I have are, there's also a submission form. As I mentioned, this is probably the easiest way to get direct comment to me about any feature request or update you would like. This goes directly to my inbox, but of course you can email communications or myself. And then there's also a print widget that you can get PDF versions of whatever you're looking at on the map. If you filtered it down, you can get direct results that way. And you can also share this via social media, links, embed the map as well. And if anyone has any questions or custom requests, you can always let me know. We had a showcase on Wednesday, the 24th. It was well attended, was fairly engaging for library members to get a little more in-depth display of the map. And there's a lot of excitement, so that keeps me excited to keep updating the map and add more features as we go. Yeah, it's been a fun project so far, and I can take any questions now.
Grant, when you get around to schools, I think it would be really helpful here. It's a question that is like two requests. Is I think not only the location of each school, but also the school districts would be handy.
Yeah, absolutely. We get that question a lot, or that request a lot, especially how all these service areas overlap with the public libraries, the school districts, legislative districts. So that will be that idea of a map will probably replace this resource sharing map as like the go-to Rails map eventually when we can get to it. Just seeing how all of the service areas of our members, regardless of type, interact and kind of overlay to see how the complexity of our membership goes.
Grant, was that session recorded? That you mentioned this week?
I believe it was, yeah, it's called the Rails Resource Sharing Map Showcase. Jessica Silva was hosting that with me, and I believe she did record it.
Yeah, I think she recorded.
Great, thank you.
Grant, a question about if you searched like a home address, would you be able to use this map to get to, if you have like a tax rate method? Can you get to the property information from this map as well?
Yes, I will caution that a hint because the service areas of this map are slightly out of date compared to the state library's map. And like I said, I'm working with them to get that more up to date. But that's been the most common mention of people using this map is looking of the patron comes in, wants to get a library card, and they can just kind of type in that address and zoom in to see. But y'all know your service areas better than this map does for some of you. So just kind of be wary of what's in and out. Just kind of double check or ask me and we can reach out to the state library and kind of help figure that out.
Answer your question, it was recorded, and it will be uploaded to YouTube. So. Can I just make a comment, Grant? I love this map, and one of the things that I like about this presentation right now is it ties together some of the other things we've heard today. Like Ann did an LSAP presentation, all the LSAPs are represented on that map, right? Sometimes us as staff members, we think in the color-coded version of this map. We think, like you tell us that you're like, oh, I'm from Joliet or White Oak or something like that. We say, oh, you're a Pinnacle Library, right? We think of you as a color-coded library on a map service. Mark gave a presentation on delivery. If you click on one of those things, it'll give you the delivery code. We think about your library in terms of delivery code. Who services you in terms of the service center. So it's a really nice representation of how we have to think of libraries sometimes in order to. There's a lot of libraries on there.
Yeah,
How do we fit them all in our small brains? So that's how we do it.
I also want to note, this is a very complex piece of software, and we are so lucky to have someone like Grant on staff who can both navigate this software, but has also been very willing to learn the nuances of this software in order to make this work so that we could have a tool like this for our members. So I want to thank Grant for his skill set that he brings to us, but also his willingness to learn and innovate and create something that is ultimately of such huge value to our members.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been a very fun project.
Yeah. And Catherine, didn't I see you have an ILA session?
Yeah,
that hit that white space?
several of the members of the Universal Services Committee will be presenting in the panel discussion on just that very topic of what's up with that and how can we address it. So that'll be on Wednesday at 9 for anyone who's interested in attending that.
Yeah.
Because we want to get that down to everything is colored. No colors are white.
I would say, remember too, that in that upper area in the DuPage, Cook County area, it's smaller right now, but there are white spaces in there as well. And remember, population wise, those numbers are, so there's sometimes that mistaken thought that it's, oh, downstate farmland or that kind of stuff. And it's actually a healthy combination of all people needing access.
Thank you, Grant.
Yeah,
I really
absolutely. We had this come up in the showcase on Wednesday of someone from Addison Public Library mentioned the Swiss cheese of their service area. Even though they're in the suburbs, there's still plenty of pockets that are unserved, and there's plenty of strategies to address that. But this map helps visualize what that actually looks like of the neighborhoods, and are they industrial, are they forest preserves, or are they actual homes with residents.
And just in case we haven't said it yet today, there are 1 million unserved residents in Illinois, and 500,000 of those roughly are in the rail service area.
Wow. Well, I think I'm living example of how data with Jeanette Duraki's Slate project, when you have a visual or numerical data set, it helps you to frame your thinking. And without that, you go, I don't think that's a big problem, or I don't see that as as an issue until the shows it in some way. Then you say, wow, that's a thing that we need to work on. So hard work gives data that can make action.
Well, I often tell people about the unserved numbers. And maybe people in academic libraries don't think about that as much, but then having this kind of map to show it also makes it even more obvious and easy to access, like, just look at this. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much, Grant, for presenting that and for all your work on that map.
Yep, thank you.
Now it's time for board members to share news from their library or area with our Rails board member reports.
Well, I have something, but it's with the Friends of the Shorewood Library. I'm also a member of the Friends of the Shorewood Library, and we had our used book sale last weekend, and we raised over $3,000, which, when you're considering the books we're going at a quarter a piece, that's a lot of books that got used by other people. And the one kid that bought all the DVDs, and there was like 5,000, but whatever. So that was really, really, the books that didn't get sold, there's a company that takes them, we had to pay, but they'll give us back a kickback per ton of books they took away. And they recycle them and make like egg cartons and stuff out of them, So it, like, nothing went to waste. It kind of felt good like that. And then the Friends of the Library also made the front page of the Shorewood Neighbors magazine, which I live in Shorewood and I don't even get that magazine. So I don't know where you can get it. I went to Walgreens, they don't have it. It's one of those free magazines, but I called the magazine because I'm on the cover, and they sent one to me, and I said, well, who in Shorewood gets this? Like one person? And so that was my 1 second of fame, because the one person that got that magazine could see me on it. And it was just about the Friends and stuff. So you guys as library directors, and there's a lot that a good Friends group can do, as long as they have real good relationship with the library and not, oh, friends are in the way again. They can really do a lot for your group, for your library, as long as you have a good Friends group and you have a good library relationship.
I just wanted to say we're preparing for the Universal Services presentation at ILA. So if there are any libraries out there who have, significant challenges or things to celebrate with respect to Universal Services that you've been able to offer to your unserved patrons, please contact me. We're trying to, make sure we can highlight some of those successes and challenges in the presentation. I'd be happy to listen and learn from what your library is doing, so that we can collect those, package them up, and share with the community at ILA. So if you're looking to reach out, you can, I don't know, Monica or Joe could get your contact information to me, and then I can reach you, and then we can talk. So please consider sharing your highlights and maybe even your challenges with us, so that we can fully represent as much as possible the goals for Illinois libraries and serving everyone in the state.
I'm happy to share an update on Evanston Public Library. So I think I mentioned at last month's meeting that we were having a cost analysis done to see, what is it feasible for us to break away as a district. So I made the newspaper too. a lot of newspapers.
Yay.
The city spoke very loudly that they do not want the library to break away from the city. They rallied the union to storm my board meeting. So, yeah, so we, it doesn't mean we won't become a district. It's just not, agreeable to both parties. So therefore, if we did become a district, we would have to go out for a referendum. So at this stage, we know what that will take. That's not an easy task. There's a lot of polling and voter and education, public education that needs to go on. And so I think our board will continue to move forward in a collaborative spirit with the city while we continue to think about whether we do break away as a district. I think PPRT, something that we mentioned here today, is really important because this is something that since I came to Evanston, I had been asking where the PPRT was, and I got no answer, or I got kind of crickets. And so that because it was in the newspaper, then everybody started asking, where is the PPRT? And so the city has finally had to tell us, no, our PPRT percent, because I had to go dig through the county records and get that. So we should be getting 11.21% of everything Evanston gets. And over the last 5 years, that amounts to about $2 million that we were shorted in the library. So we are working with our attorney at Ansel to ensure that we get that and that we, again, move forward in a collaborative spirit until we determine what's best for the library.
What a good find.
Yes.
Wow. It's like finding gold. Yeah, that's cool.
It's a very timely issue.
Yeah.
A lot of city libraries really concerned about the issue of PPRT or personal property replacement tax.
And I will say city council in Evanston held debates. They held special session saying they wanted all the PPRT to go to pay unfunded police and fire pension. And the city's attorney said, yeah, you're supposed to give the library their portion. You can't keep it for other things. And city council said, go back and try and find the loophole, right? So again, we're having Ansel Blink issue a letter. I met with the city and the city's attorney earlier this week, and they actually asked me, they said, well, where did you get the calculation? So I pulled out the 1976 tax levy sheets and I'm sure that you don't have it. So, yes.
Wow. Keep us updated. That's very interesting. Yeah.
But I know there's several other libraries around the state that are not getting their PPRT, and it's a shame. Yes. That is money that could go to collections when we think about people who want more materials and we don't have those materials. And it's not within our budget. It just, that could be really impactful.
Absolutely.
I was going to say that Rail's very own Jessica Silva, I'm sorry she's not here, so she would hear me sing her praises. She visited my home library for our most recent in-service day, and she's just wonderful. We all learned a lot. She's developed relationships with a couple of my coworkers that are ongoing, and what a great resource for us. And she really represents Rails very well.
So I'm out in Coal Valley today. I was attending the Pug Day conference, the Prairie Cat Users Group this morning. I just wanted to say thank you to Rail staff who participated. There was a really great turnout. I think they had about 282 Prairie Cat members attending in person. Joe Philippik gave the keynote this morning, and we also had Rail staff presenting on Find More Illinois and eRead Illinois. It was a really great event. So thank you.
Thank you, Alex. We're so excited that there was such a great turnout today. I know the Rail staff was really thrilled to be there and to be invited.
I also want to thank our executive director, Monica Harris, for visiting the hinterlands of Illinois. Our local library at a rural library, Dunlap Public Library, really appreciated. You made a lot of difference in
It's such a pleasure to get to, I love visiting all of our member libraries, but one of the things that we do when we have new board members is I get the opportunity to go and meet with them at their library. So far I have been to visit Yolande's library and Ron's library and Rob's library. But it's such a great opportunity to get to hear what you're doing at your library and why that work was so impactful that you wanted to join the Rails board. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and visit and see it in
Well, our
person.
trustees got a real education.
Well, and the good news is for Monica, Dunlap and Peoria are 15 minutes from each other.
I did do it on the same day.
Right.
I feel as though I should apologize to Rob for delaying with his. I won't.
We were all on time.
It's fine.
Any other news? All right, well, thank you everyone for sharing. So our next meeting will be on Friday, October 24th at 1 p.m. The agenda will include Rails deals and discounts as the service of the month and cybersecurity for libraries as the board development topic. Also on the agenda is the quarterly consortial reports. Does anyone have any questions about next month's meeting? If there are no further comments or questions, thank you for your attendance today, and I hope you have a great weekend. And the meeting is adjourned at 3:01 p.m.